Hey guys, welcome to Gaming and Console Tech. I am Ash, back again with another video. Now, we all get into gaming for different reasons. Whatever those reasons may be, depends on the person that you are. Now, whatever the reason is that you got into gaming, it's individual to you. It's that simple. That's the way life goes, and that is the way everything pans out. But I asked a poll on Twitter who wanted to know my history in gaming, how I got to where I am now as a collector. So, here is my story, and I hope you enjoy it. So guys, as a kid in my parents' house, gaming was pretty much forbidden. That's just the way my parents were. I wasn't essentially allowed a console because of some reasoning in their head, so that was my life. But it didn't stop me from playing video games. If anything, it enticed me to play video games. I literally used to go around to my friend's house to play video games. The consoles that I ended up playing was indeed the Mega Drive, the PS1, the PS2, and in some cases some obscure consoles that I'd never heard of. I've played a Jaguar because of that reason, I've played a Dreamcast because of that reason. The one console out of all of them though that I fell in love with was the Dreamcast, and that was pretty much where my heart led at that point. But there was a console before the Dreamcast which caught my attention, and the reason that gaming became such a big part of my life. That console was the Mega Drive. Now, a lot of my friends used to have them, and that in itself is just absolutely amazing because I didn't have one and I wanted to play theirs. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I went and played their consoles forever. So yeah, it was kind of like that. Now, the first console that I ever purchased at that point was a Dreamcast, and I wasn't young when that happened. When I got that Dreamcast, I was 17 years old. I paid for it out of a work's wage that I ended up getting. And the game that I fell in love with right from the start was Sonic Adventure. That's the game I bought along with, I think, Crazy Taxi, and I loved every moment of those games. Now, the reason I got that was because at the time I was going through quite a lot emotionally, just due to the fact that my parents at the time were emigrating when I was 16. They emigrated to a different country, whereas I was left in the UK, and I was feeling a bit under the weather. I actually went through depression, anxiety, panic attacks, all that kind of stuff. That's where it pretty much took over me. And the Dreamcast was the one console that really did help me with that scenario. It really helped me to get over the depression, or deal with the depression more than anything. And it was just amazing to deal with that, because it was so tough, so mentally draining as well, because I was working at the time as well, so it was kind of like dealing with those issues was just so tough for me. So that Dreamcast holds a special place in my heart, where it kind of saved my life a little bit, because it gave me an outlet of what I wanted to do away from the real world. I could just close the door, turn all the lights off, turn on my Dreamcast and vibe away to the world. And that was essentially my first console. That's where I bought my first console, and I loved that console. I loved that Dreamcast to bits, and it was just amazing. So what started me collecting? That's going to be the main question. What started me collecting? Well, let's take a look. So guys, what made me a collector? What drove me to collect as many games as I currently have? Now, although it's not as big as some people. Some people have essentially a massive room, but I still count myself as a collector of sorts. Now, what led me to that? What made me want to collect? Well, my love for video games. When I met my now wife, I was still largely into video games. I was literally just focused on those, along with obviously earning money to care for my family and whatever else. But with that said, video games for me became a lot more. It became an escape, like I said, away from my depression and whatever else I was dealing with. Now, these things still rear their ugly head from time to time, and it can really, really take its toll. But what gets me through that is having time to just vibe, play my games, and do things like that, and concentrate on something other than life. Now, when I started collecting, I was around about 20 years old, and that in itself is quite late on, because all the games I had as a kid I'd probably sold on or whatever else. In my case, I didn't have those games from my childhood because I wasn't allowed those games as a child. So that forbidden thing that I couldn't have, I can now have. I was an adult, I could do that with my own benefit. So that was the idea. And honestly, some of my favourite consoles are some of the ones that I used to play as a kid, but there's also some that I never thought would be my favourite. Like, for instance, the Super Nintendo. The Super Nintendo is just an amazing console. I didn't know that until I was 25, maybe, when I picked one up. And honestly, I kind of missed out on all of this. I missed out on those scenarios where I was essentially not really a kid as such. So to have that experience now is just an amazing feat, to be honest. But I'm a collector because I love these things. I love, like for instance, I love my Mega Drive, my Master System converter, which I've just done a video on. And honestly, I love consoles, I just love them. And I can't really express enough how much I do love them. It's a passion for me, as it is for most of us. For any collector, it's a passion, and you want to drive that passion more and more, and you want to become something that makes you feel happy with yourself. And all this, as much as some people might hate it, it makes me feel happy. So much so, I have actually got rid of certain parts of my collection at times. When we moved into this house, I actually got rid of a lot of retro consoles. A Mega Drive, a Super Nintendo, an NES, a Saturn. All these consoles I got rid of, and still I go back to them. Still I kind of focus my head and I want them back. And I just always come back to it, guys. So with that said, what has drove me to my collecting today? What is my current situation with a collector? Well, let's go and take a look. Well guys, the reason I collect today is because my wife essentially lets me. That's not something every guy can say at all. Now, my wife lets me live my passion, essentially. That's what she does. She supports me in every aspect of it, collecting. And sometimes it does drive her crazy, but doesn't every guy drive a woman crazy? Doesn't every woman drive a guy crazy? It's a matter of life, and that's what happens. But she drives my passion as much as I drive my passion. She loves the fact that I've got something to focus on that isn't essentially going out and getting drunk every other weekend, and that is something that I can live with. Now, gaming today, I have my own kids. They play these games. They go on my consoles and they have a laugh. We have 2-player games on Sonic. We have 2-player games on other stuff as well, and it's something to spend time with. And not only that, they're getting shown what video games were like before there was highly paid DLC or fantastic newfangled graphics that they have, and I find that more important. Spending that time with my kids, spending that time with my family, playing those games, simple games, not just going around shooting people and things like that. It just makes the passion so much better. Now, the other reason is the fact that in general, like I said before, I just love retro games. I love retro hardware. I love the look of them. I love the style of them. And in my view, the 80s were just an amazing time for video games. The 90s were an amazing time for video games. You get into the 2000s and everything kind of falls apart, in my opinion. Just because back in the day, 80s, 90s, every single console had their own style. The N64 was nowhere near like the PS1. The PS1 was nowhere near like the Saturn. And that always intrigued me. The fact that these consoles were always different. And that essentially comes from experience. That's from playing these games. And nowadays, the two main competitors are PlayStation and Xbox, and the Switch does fall into that category as current gen, but Nintendo are the only ones doing something different and out of the norm, and that still intrigues me a little bit. But back in the day, every console was different. There was no, we'll do this the same as each other. Nintendo was different. Atari was different. And it just makes things more interesting when different consoles are different for a reason, opposed to just different in the look and feel of them. So yeah, the retro hardware style is just my love of gaming, and the retro games in general. It was a simple time for gaming, and that's what I love. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed a look into my gaming life, because I've enjoyed telling it here. It's been a video I've wanted to do for quite some time, but not sure how to approach it, so I'm hoping you guys have loved that. And honestly guys, many people in my lifetime have turned around and said, why? What are you doing? Why have you got all these consoles? In simple, it's a passion. That's essentially what it is. It is a passion, and I love my passion. And that's the only way I can answer them. But if you're getting judged for that reason, then people aren't accepting you for who you are. So don't let them judge you for doing something with your time that means a lot to you. Anyway guys, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this insight into why I game, why I love retro consoles. And in the meantime guys, like, comment, subscribe, and I shall see you guys in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Happy gaming.